All right. Good morning, everybody. I am here with Sarah Marcus from Briar Rose Creamery. So, Sarah, take it away. Tell me all about you and tell me all about Briar Rose.
Good morning. Thanks, Janae. I appreciate your call. Hey there. How are you, Elizabeth? Anyway, it's a beautiful Thursday morning here in Dundee, Oregon. And anyway, my name is Sarah Marcus. I am the owner and cheesemaker and bottle dish pit manager and garbage man here at Briar Rose Creamery. Um, let's see, I started Briar Rose in 2010. So this is our 10th anniversary.
Oh,
Um,
exciting.
Yeah, we made our first sale on 420 in 2010. So 420 is a big number for us as well, for other reasons than other people might think. Um, and it's been going this wild roller coaster ride ever since. Um, I've been in cheese for the past 15 years. I started in 2005 as a cheesemonger down in San Francisco. Um, got a job working behind the counter at the Ferry Building for Cowgirl and kind of cut my teeth there. Peg and Sue are still some of my mentors and think the world of them, but they really put me on this path to make great cheese and understand what good cheese really is. Uh,
Awesome.
2010. Yeah, we moved up here to Dundee. Well, moved to Dundee in 2008 with the intention of building this creamery. Before that, I had worked not only at Cowgirl as a cheesemonger, but as a cheesemaking intern. Bounced around to a few other places, having internships and apprenticeships, and then wound up here in Oregon because we knew we couldn't afford to do what we wanted to do in the Bay Area, let alone anywhere near a major city in California. Even though that's where I'm from, my husband Jim, he's a native of Sacramento, California, and we were just like, yeah, we can't do it. But we had family here in Oregon. Jim's uncle lives about 10 miles away in McMinnville. So we knew the area and really concentrated on this region because we love Portland, we love Yamhill County, which is where we are. This is a huge wine growing region, and there were no cheesemakers here. So we kind of keyed in on this place as a good potential place to build our creamery because there's this awesome city, 45 minutes to an hour away, and we could still afford to buy property here and build this dream. And build it we did from the ground up.
It's a beautiful facility. I've gotten the pleasure of being there. So,
Yes, you did. I think you were here when we were making feta. Is that right? I'm trying to remember.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We still had goat milk then.
Yes. So
When
that kind of brings me to what kind of cheeses do you make?
we make cow's milk cheeses. Um, for the first, I don't know how many years was it? 7. We were all goat cheese with a little bit of cow's milk, like in the wintertime. I would get access to cow's milk when the goats were dry, because the dairies I worked with were always seasonal. Um, and that worked really well. And a few years ago, the goat dairy that we were working with had some major equipment issues, and they just couldn't recover from it, and they went out of business. But at the same time, I had been picking up some cow's milk from a local Ayrshire herd, Ayrshire, as they say here in Oregon. Um, so there was a farmer who's about 30 miles away who has an organic herd, and one of my dairy inspectors actually connected me with them, and because I had been saying I really wanted to work with Ayrshire milk, and I've been saying this for a number of years, and just didn't know where these guys were, didn't have access to them. So one of my inspectors was up here one day, and he's like, I've got an old fraternity brother that runs an Ayrshire herd over outside of Woodburn. Maybe you guys want to talk. I'm like, do tell. So he hooked me up with. It's just been this relationship ever since. Um, he's up.
Yeah, sorry, we're having some technical difficulties
Oh,
with that
wait, there you are.
country internet. I'm kind of used to it at this point, but just for everybody out there to know
Yeah,
that that's
those
just
squirrels only run so fast.
Yeah.
They're powering our wife over here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how many styles
Okay.
of cheese do you make?
Styles. There are the fresh ones, and we do a feta style called Fata Morgana. The fresh is just, fromage blanc. Um, a bloomy, then there's all the wash rinds. So there's probably about six or seven that I make on a regular rotation. Well, six that we do regularly, and then there's all the special projects I do once in a while. There's the seasonal ones. Um, there's my different. Uh, let's try washing cheese in gin. Let's try washing cheese in wine and beer, and not just this beer, but how about this beer? Let's do a session ale. Let's do a IPAs. Don't work so well, even though we're here in the heart of IPA country. Um, but those nice, bigger, bolder beers work very nicely. Um,
Yeah. Well, it's a
so
good
it's
area for experimentation with all of that, with the beer and wine scene being very
yeah,
robust in Oregon.
and there's been some great collaborations that I've done with some of the local producers and brewers and winemakers. So
Awesome.
it's fun. I get to scratch that itch, but not right now. All that stuff's kind of put on the back burner while we just kind of with the virus land that we're in. So
Yeah.
it's kind of um,
So
anyway.
tell me
But
what
let's
your
talk about
business
cheese. That's more
yeah,
fun.
well, just let me know what your business model looked pre-COVID. How well distributed were you? Like, um, just, did you sell direct to consumers? Do you have an online sales? Like, what did that look like pre-COVID?
Pre March Friday the 13th, um, we were pretty much working farmers markets. Uh, I'd say 80% of our business, um, cus- our customers were mostly restaurants. We would sell here out of our farm store, which is where I'm sitting right now. Um, so there's a window right here that is now our walk-up window. um, but we would let people come in and we would do cheese tastings here on weekends, um, kind of like wine tasting, where I would do a guided tasting from fresh to most robust cheeses, and just kind of do an education when people would come in. This is cheese. This is how you can describe cheese. These are the flavors, and it was fun for me. Having that public face was always a part of my business plan. I want people to come and I want them to see where their cheese is made, because that's something that as a kid I always loved doing. We would travel around Sonoma County visiting cheesemakers and farmers. We'd go get eggs. We'd go get potatoes up in Sebastopol. We would just run around and getting everything that was fresh. And that experience was something that I wanted to bring forward and do that here in my own place. And so I intentionally built the farm store so that I have that public face here at my creamery. Now I built it intentionally small so that people would come in, buy their cheese, and leave. So it's probably, what is it, 8 by 12. I mean, it's a small room,
Yeah.
and it can be claustrophobic with more than 4 people in here. And that was intentional. There is room to expand should I choose to, but it's been 10 years and it's been fine.
Yeah.
um, so we would sell direct. We also do farmers markets. We sell to several meaning three mostly, distributors here on the West Coast. Um, so Tomales Bay Foods down in California carries my cheese. Um, Here in Portland, I work with Provista, which is part of Chef's Warehouse, as well as Alexis Foods. And then up in Seattle, Corsican Cellar. So there's like four of them. Olivier pulls in my cheese.
Yeah. So you're pretty
But
well represented on the West Coast
yeah,
for the most
and
part.
that's kind of been where we're at for a very long time. I mean, I'll have people. For a little while, I was working with Food Matters again back in Brooklyn, and they were buying a little bit, but it was just really hard to get my cheese, which for the most part they're pretty delicate.
Yeah.
My softer cheeses are probably the ones I'm most well known for. Well, no, I'm still a very small cheese maker. I'm saying, but like Maya, Lorelei when I had goat milk, Those were the ones that people wanted the most, but they were the hardest to ship and have
Yeah.
them maintain integrity. So here on the West Coast, it's a lot easier because you can get it to people quicker.
Yeah.
Um, that clock is ticking once those cheeses are leaving the door, and I'm just kind of like crossing my fingers, going, "Okay, please show up
Yeah.
in a good manner, and then hang in there, for the duration." Um,
Yeah.
so I've always been a small cheesemaker, and that's I don't know if it is kind of intentional. I like being at a scale that I can manage. If people aren't here, I don't just like I'm not crushed. It's a stressor if one of my 4 employees isn't here, but we can still manage. I do what I call the slow growth model, meaning if I can't conceive of a way that I can keep doing this if someone isn't here, um, I'm going to be very cautious about doing that. I've never been in a large expansion mode because that requires a lot of capital, first of all. And, I'm still recovering from, I'm still paying off the debt of building this place. So do I want more debt? No. Um,
Well, and there's something to be said for, I mean, there's a big thing to be said about being able to find something locally that you can't get anywhere else.
yeah.
I'm a
And
big proponent
I
of
agree.
that. So,
I agree. And a lot of customers that come in here, especially to the tasting room, um, they ask, we live in Cedar Bluff, Iowa, or we're from Pensacola, Florida. Where can we get your cheese back home? I'm like, you can't. But there's probably some local cheesemakers that are pretty good, and if I know them, I'll tell you who they are,
yeah.
or if I know of them. So go support them, and then when you come back here to Oregon, you're tasting wine. Come stop by and get our cheese.
You have something
Uh,
special to look forward to on that trip.
exactly,
Yeah.
it just brings them back.
Yeah.
Come support, all the local businesses here, and we'll be here when you come back. So I do encourage them to support their local creameries.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how business has changed now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what does your landscape look like right now?
Very different. Um, that Monday when the hammer fell, and when I woke up and I was looking at an order sheet that had just one order on it. When the previous week it was full. 80% of the business is gone. Distributors, that first week I had one order, and that was for my distributor. While everyone else was just kind of like reeling, trying to figure it out, including us. And I was petrified. I mean, I was literally frozen in fear that Tuesday, the next day. In the morning I woke up and I'm just like, what the hell just happened? I mean, you knew stuff was coming down, and virus was getting worse, and the government response was not. It was well, we won't go down that
Yeah.
digression, but it was I was frozen with fear. I really was petrified. I'm like, how am I going to get through this? I don't know. Um, and I think you saw it. I put this thing on Facebook that just said, guys, I'm scared. I don't know I mean, when I wiped away the tears, I'm just like, okay, I've got to get this out. I have to. One of the many life lessons I've learned is not to keep things bottled up because it doesn't do anyone any good, especially me. So Facebook actually is a good platform for just really trying to share something. And so I put it out there knowing my friends would see this and hopefully someone might offer a handout or a hand up. And I was just overwhelmed with the response that I got with people going, you can do this. Breathe. First off, breathe. Um, and just the ideas that came peppering in. It's like, okay, let's group think this. Let's figure out how are we going to get cheese out to the masses? Because I'm looking at caves that were sitting there full of Maya, full of Butterbloom, full of Callisto and Demona and Hanali. I mean, all these cheeses that you can't get anywhere else because they're the ones that I make. They're my own riff on whatever. Some of them are cheeses I just made by mistake.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
and so much of them are so soft and delicate too that
yeah,
was kind of the first thing to really get hit so hard. So
exactly.
I'm sure that hammer really came down on you first and foremost.
Yeah, yeah. And so, you know, I put that thing out on Facebook, just like, I'm scared. And then I came down to work. I'm like, okay, one thing I can do is I can work I mean, those cheeses have to get taken care of. We've got to salt them. We've got to salt that batch we made on Monday. We've got to, take care of washing those mayas and turning the butter blooms and seeing what the hell we can do while we figure out our next step. So I just stepped away from my computer and just put my head down, and I started making phone calls. So I called out to my network. It's like, all right, let's start working the network. So I called my distributors. I'm like, okay, what's the lay of the land? What do you see? And called Satiri at Alexis Foods, and I'm like, dude, I mean, I have my little cave here that I'm sitting in, my bubble. What You're in Portland? What's the wider world looking like? And he's just like, we don't know. We've just, our sales team. Well, we're kind of letting a few people go. We're trying to figure out where we're going to move our product. And the grocery stores, yeah, there's a rush going on. So people are getting all the retail cuts. They're not handling the delicate cheeses that require more hands-on management. If they need that cheesemonger there to cut it and wrap it and hand sell it often, especially with a smaller creamery like mine. So I called them. I called Greg Hessel at Cowbell, and I'm like, what are you seeing? And he's like, oh, I just furloughed all of my staff except one person. And I'm like, and so I got off these calls and I was crying. I'm just like, holy cow. I mean, what is going on here? This is unreal. We just took a sharp right into this new reality that we're all in. I mean, it's not just me. I know that. But I saw ideas starting to form. Okay, so they're not cheesemongers aren't handling these softer cheeses as much. But if I make other cheeses, let me see what I can do. Let me pivot. So from this area of devastation, I started to get ideas, and I started to redirect my little creamery to look at these cut and wrap cheeses, and offered Alexis Foods, because they're a small family-owned business, and it's easier for them to be a little more nimble as well. Just initially, I'm like, okay, I can cut and wrap these cheeses, give retail cuts to cheesemongers so that they can sell Callisto, my firmer kind of Asiago-ish. I don't know what you call this cheese. It's it's the cheese I made by mistake. It's supposed to be a Taleggio and turned into this other thing. That was a while ago. Um, anyway, so I can cut and wrap. I can vac seal that one. So I'm like, okay, I've got my vac sealer, but it's a little small tabletop model. I need something new. I need something bigger that can handle more of this if I'm going to do this complete transformation of what I'm selling. So I reached out. This is a couple weeks later. Reached out to Ryan at Mount Townsend and said, "Hey, do you guys still have your vacuum sealer?" Because I knew they did a lot of that. And he's like, "Yeah, actually, I'm just selling it, and I'm going to be down in your area." Um, he had There was something he was working on, and we said yes. He dropped off this large machine that can now vac seal 12 at a time, as opposed to my two little pieces. So that totally, my employees were so happy. They're suddenly so much more efficient, and
Yes.
cutting and wrapping these cheeses, like, it's those little things that make you happy.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm just going to point out really quick for those that don't know that Mount Townsend is a Washington cheesemaker that
right.
recently,
Sorry.
pre-COVID, before any of this happened, announced that
Hmm.
they were quitting production. So they were out in Port Townsend and they decided earlier this year to stop making cheese. So this, while very sad, is clearly benefiting other local cheesemakers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so now basically you are vacuum sealing your cheeses, you
Mhm.
have a farm pickup, you
As
little
much as I can. So one of the many ideas that actually came from this cry for help on Facebook were numerous, but people said, reach out to CSAs, so consumer supported agriculture. Find places where I can do a cheese add-on. So, I take a bundle of cheese, like bundle 3 cheeses, give them a discount, and put these along with veggie boxes.
Yeah.
And so I reached out to a grocery delivery service in Portland called Local Milk Run, and they deliver throughout Portland and into Beaverton and pretty much the Portland metro area. And overnight their business took off. As we're probably seeing around the country, just these places where you can order online. This company focuses on small producers, especially local. And we used to work with them when we had goat milk, but when we made the switch to cow's milk cheeses, we didn't make the shift with them. Not really sure why, but it just kind of fell by the wayside. But I approached them and said, "Hey, would you guys mind, bringing your cheese back in?" And they were like, "Absolutely. Who else? Who else needs help? Because we're happy to help bring on more cheesemakers and other producers because our business is taking off and we can't keep the stuff in stock." So sweet.
Yeah.
Here, take mine.
Yeah, I've been hearing that from a
Another
lot of people that CSAs are have been really important through this whole
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. There's another local one here in McMinnville. Um, I approached other friends of ours that we know from the McMinnville Farmers Market, who are the farmers, and they were just starting up their CSA, and through them we coordinated with this place called the Mac Market, and Mac Market is kind of acting as the hub for all of the local producers to add on to this produce box. So it's all more community focused now. And that has been a big pivot for our business, is that we're focusing much more on more hyper local almost sales. And it's helping. It's been great. The other big angel for us, I gotta say, has been Olympia Provisions. Um, Eli and Michelle, they started 6 months before us. So they started in 2009, and I think the fall, and then we started in the spring of 2010. And so we grew up together, going to the farmers markets and like just kind of getting to know each other as business people in the community here in Portland. And so when everything went down, actually Michelle was one of the other first calls that I made, and I'm like, "What are you guys doing?" She's like, and she was like fighting back tears. She's like, "We just laid off 75 people. We had to close down all our restaurants. But how can I help?" And I'm like, "Thank you. Can you maybe sell cheese online for me? Maybe, please, pretty please, because I'm not doing any online sales." That's just been a piece that I've never taken on because it's such a huge. It's a logistical circus that I didn't want to be the ringmaster of.
I
um,
understand.
yeah, I mean, onesie twosies. Yeah, I can do some shipping, but they already have the mechanisms in place to get product shipped out easily. And yes, salamis are not as perishable, but they're also shipping like their pates and the stuff for them that needs to be refrigerated. So adding cheese to their meat boxes, they can do. And so she said, let me do a Briar Rose Creamery sampler, and we'll put it up on the website, and we'll have cheese add-ons, and we can do mail order for you. And I'm like, "Yes, please." So we threw it out there. Oh, and they also do a mobile pantry. So they have this refrigerated truck that they drive around Portland that's loaded with all kinds of goodness. There's
Yeah,
cheese, there's chocolate,
I
there's of
saw
course all their
Andy, or
meats.
I saw Eli
Oh, yeah.
actually driving that around
Oh, nice.
on Instagram. So like
Uh-huh.
being able to get your cheese and meat delivered directly by Eli, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, yeah, no kidding. No, I love just the sense of whimsy that those guys have. I mean, it's pretty fun. Um, yeah, I went in for a brainstorming session with them when they were talking about the mobile pantry, and it was they have speakers on the outside of their truck that plays circus music. So
You know
it's
they're
better.
coming.
Yeah, it's better than the ice cream truck. Um, and it has beer and wine on it, so it for some folks it is better than the ice cream truck.
Yeah.
For me, I'd be all over the salamis, but yeah, but they stepped up and they were really just there. How can we help? We'll help. You've got this product to move. We can do it. So a lot of my like Mayas have gone out through them. Um, it's been it's just been incredible to see like the support and the people that are out there, and we're all helping each other, or at least trying to.
Yeah.
Um, so it's beautiful, and they're doing. Oh, so I wanted to say, so when they put up this Briar Rose sampler, um, we said, okay, let's try 100 pieces of these three different cheeses, and threw it out there, and they sold out like within an hour and a half. It was insane. It was just, who knew?
That's
And
beautiful.
Michelle said, she's like, I've never seen anything take off like this. So hopefully we'll be doing more, some kind of collaboration or something in the future. Or I mean, it's just they're such a joy to work with.
Yeah.
Um, so they're still selling cheese. I mean, obviously things tapered off a little bit since then, but yeah, they're able to move a lot of product for me while I'm still figuring out do mail order myself.
Yeah. That's a big
So there's
project.
that. It's very different.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
So let's talk about your milk source.
Mhm.
Are you making cheese right now? Have you had to lay off any employees? Like,
No.
what is happening to the milk if you're not making? What's going on in that respect?
Um, so we haven't laid anyone off. Hours are a bit reduced. So what I've done, we've scaled back a little bit. So I'm not making Maya as frequently. Um, I mean, I'm still making it. I'm still making Butterbloom. Butterbloom, I don't distribute as much because it's actually my newest cheese, and I just want to, well, back pre COVID, Maya was what I was really focusing on trying to produce the most, and contemplating how do I scale this up reasonably. Um, and Butterbloom was one I just kept more local because I didn't want to like try to outcompete with myself. um, so I've wandered down a rabbit hole. Where was I going with this?
So
um,
you've cut down some hours, but you haven't
yes,
had to lay anybody off.
yeah. So all the
Um,
employees are still here. We haven't laid anyone off. Milk wise, actually we're maybe not picking up quite as much. Both of my producers sell to co-op here. I mean, they're part of Dairy Gold. Um, so I'm not aware of them having to dump any milk. Um, so I work actually with two farms. So I have a parent family farm who have the Ayrshires, and then I work with a Guernsey herd. So I have two nice heritage breeds that I have access to that are very different in how their milk works and how it's
yeah,
handled. They produce very different flavors, even though the two farms are 5 miles apart from each other. Uh,
that's interesting.
yes, I have single varietal cow milk that I get to work with.
Well, that's
To
good that
steal.
you're not
No,
their
no,
only revenue source. So that's
yeah,
good.
I am
Um,
grateful for that.
yeah.
Yeah,
What about your affinage practices? Has anything changed in that respect? Because like I was talking to Cascadia Creamery and they had to put some stuff in coolers to kind of put things at stasis. Um,
mhm.
because their coolers were just kind of backed up. Have you had to do any sort of triage
it's
on
been a
that level?
it's been a balancing act a bit. So there's definitely we were focusing on, and we are focusing on making more of the firmer cheeses. These are go down again. You're frozen.
Yeah, you're good now.
Okay, there you are. Okay, sorry. Maybe a
Country
bird
internet,
flew
I
in front
tell
of it.
you.
I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, so
So
the
you're focusing
coolers
on
are the
more
harder
firm
cheeses.
cheeses. Yeah.
But that requires, okay, we're getting into the balancing act of shelf space. And I only have X number of wire racks. And I actually used bread trays because I saw what they were doing over at Cascadia Creamery. And yeah, John and Mark were like, yeah, like I need to get rid of these old, ugly, peeling, rusting Metro racks that I had. So what are you guys using and where did you get those? And so I bought a bunch of bread trays to just last year to get rid of all those horrible rusting Metro racks. So we have only a certain number of those. So things were getting backed up. Fortunately, all of this is happening as farmers markets are kicking in. So guess what's going to the farmers markets? A lot
Yeah.
of firmer cheese.
Yeah.
And knock wood, the markets are still going. They're doing a lot of social distancing practices. I mean, there's a lot of learning happening over there too. Um, the market managers are like, how do we manage the crowds? How do we keep everyone safe? And thankfully, it's been working so far. I mean, I'm still holding my breath on that one, but yeah,
Yeah.
we're able to move product. And 6 weeks, is it 6 weeks? Yeah, it's 6 weeks out now. We're finding more of a stasis. I mean, I'm finding a flow happening that isn't what it was before by any means, but there there's a lot of effort going on right now to help support the cheesemakers, which I am seeing. It's helpful. So local grocery stores like Zupan's are featuring Briar Rose right now. I saw, and so that's happening at the store level, which is helping sales from the distributors. I'm seeing increases there. Um, supply chains being what they are, it's hard. I can't just like open up the aging rooms and say, "Here's more Maya." I've got
Yeah.
to ramp up a little bit again where I had scaled it back. So there's this 3 week like reaction time that happens. So it's not the next day.
Yeah. Well, it's good to see that, your buying patterns are kind of somewhat a little bit on the rise, it sounds like. So
hmm
that's good. Has this affected any thoughts about what you would want to make in the future or like change your ideas about what you want to focus on at all?
Uh, that's a good question. I mean, I'm making cheese. I mean, that is what I focus on.
Yeah.
So if I'm doing that, I'm happy. That's where
Yeah.
my joy is. I mean, doing paperwork and working on bookkeeping, no, not so much. But just being able to do this, in a place where the birds are singing and sometimes the sun shines, it's okay. It's As long as I'm able to keep going. I mean, 6 weeks ago, I didn't know if I could. I have hope now. So,
Yeah.
one day at a time, 1 week at a
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I think that's been there's definitely some future things that people are thinking about, but there's hope coming through. So it's been a good thing to hear.
yeah, I mean, I'm in this for the long haul. I'm not going away. So long as I'm able to, maintain my payroll and hopefully pay most of my bills. There's a few that we kind of put. We'll wait a week on that one.
That's fair. I think
Um,
everybody's on that page
we
right now.
we're able to do that. I'm patient right now, so what am I gonna do?
So, um, do you have any recommendations for a cheese business that's just getting started through this? Is there anything that you would suggest for them to make sure to think about ahead of time, things that they should definitely put in their business plan to prepare for, even though this is kind of a,
Couldn't have
you know,
predicted this one.
yeah.
um, yeah. Actually, I think this is really a good time to look at those dreams and breathe life into those ideas, because we're all on pause. I mean, even yes, we're working here. Yeah, we're you know plugging away, but it is taking a step back with this slowdown to reevaluate. I mean, you're not totally invested yet, so take the time to do as much homework as you can. Talk to people. Look at different ways to fund it, to fund your dream, to find creative financial outlets or sources. Um, yeah, SBA. I mean, they're still making loans. They're You may not get the PPP loan or whatever, but we were talking to our bank. We're like, say we want to buy a refrigerated van. She's like, oh, absolutely. This is the best time to do it. We're still making loans, and their real interest rates are really low. So that's all a positive. So if you can start saving money, um, or at least take the time to write down ideas and storyboard it. I mean, I'm very visual, so I like to make draw cartoons. Um, Take magazines and vision board, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
We're frozen again.
you're
There
good.
you are. Okay. All right. So yeah, take these ideas and just put it into something that you can look at. Write it down. Journal it. Just dump it all into something that you can go back and review. Because the more ideas you can bring forward is the more you can, where am I going with this? The more you can push it forward into reality. Because everything starts with a dream. This did.
Absolutely.
It
I
was
think that's I
all the
think
vision I had. I'm like, I'm gonna make cheese. I'm gonna go forward and do this, and you're not gonna tell me I can't.
and now here you are 10
Yeah.
years later. That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. But
So one kind of big last question. What can mongers, shop owners, distributors, what can we do to collaborate with you to help sell through some of your cheese? Basically, what can we do to help you?
um, buy that cheese,
Yeah.
move that cheese. Um, just if you're in an area that has access to my cheese, I mean, please order it. Get it out there. This is people are buying wine from the Willamette Valley. Hello, I'm the Willamette Valley
Yeah.
cheesemaker right here with those softer cheeses. I mean, yeah, there's another one, but it's it's a no-brainer. With Oregon Pinot Noir, we've got this lovely Oregon Maya that goes with it beautifully. Same with Butterbloom. Actually, Callisto goes beautifully with a bunch of red wines as well. So there's those tie-ins. It sell if you suggested sales or work really well. Once we can travel a bit more, send them my way. We've got this to go window, right? um, which I mean, that's how we're doing our social distancing sales. We've got a little table set up out front, and we bring a tray out, and there's a bunch of cheeses, and we tell people to point, and we bag it up, and touchless payments work well. Um, but other things that people can do is just buy support the cheesemakers, not just us, but the cheesemakers in your region. I mean, everybody needs help. I mean, I love the projects like Boxcar's doing, and they're buying the milk that's being dumped and they're turning it into cheese. I wish I had the capacity to do that. We're too small. I mean,
Yeah.
I know they aren't much bigger than us, but
Yeah, they barely have the capacity. They're just doing it. So, yeah.
that's so incredible. My brain's turning here. I know there's a lot of programs that I hear about through the Oregon Cheese Guild that hopefully I can start tapping into as well. Katie Bray, by the way, the executive director of the Oregon Cheese Guild, she's always a dynamo, but she's been awesome about feeding us information about opportunities that we can use to help sell cheese and move our product as well.
Absolutely.
So yeah, reaching out to her. I mean, I'm so happy we are here in Oregon and we have this cheese guild that is so active. And we've been a big part of it since we started.
Yeah.
Jim was former president. He helped hire Katie, so I am very happy about that.
He did a good job.
Yeah, he did. He did.
Did a good job with her for sure.
Certainly.
All right. Well, is there anything else that you feel like we didn't necessarily touch on, or do you feel good about?
Yeah, I'm looking at. I actually wrote some notes. I was thinking, contemplating, storyboarding. No, I mean, if people want to buy our cheese, I mean, right now we are still figuring out the mail order side. The back end things of like, if I sell $1 of product in a certain state, I then have to pay taxes on that. It's kind of daunting. And when I'm kind of the one woman ringleader of this pony circus, it's not something that I can really grapple easily.
Yeah.
So it's taking a long time to roll out any mail orders. So go to olympiaprovisions.com
Exactly.
and buy my product if you want it shipped to you.
That's I mean,
Um,
that's a great thing. Because honestly, I don't think that you have to it's important to be able to pivot your business to
mhm.
get the sales you need, but at the same time, there's only so much bandwidth that you
Oh,
could
yeah.
have for any of that. So I think that you're doing great by collaborating with people like Eli and Michelle because Olympia Provisions is a powerhouse. Everybody knows them. So it's kind of an easy way to kind of get your cheese in there with them, and then you don't have to have that bandwidth. You don't need it. So I think you're doing great on that respect.
Yeah, yeah. No, they're uh, yes. I mean, I'm happy I haven't expanded to the point that I have to like reel back a lot. And I'm happy I have friends that I can hand things off to that are like, Olympia Provisions and say, "Hey, can you help take this bird while we're all figuring all this stuff out?" And they're able to do it.
Yeah,
So in the long run, we're seeing our angels in all of this. So I love that.
absolutely. All right. Well, I'm going to end this and let you get back to work. So thanks everybody for tuning in,
Thank
and
you. Appreciate it.
I'll be back.